Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of fascinating sources, articles, research, our own notes, and, well, we dig deep to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight just for you.
hmm
Today, we're embarking on a journey that's, I think, really relatable and deeply personal for many of you listening. The intricate path of learning English.
Absolutely. That's a big one.
Yeah, we've got some truly insightful material here that explores why this language can sometimes feel like an incredibly confusing, maybe even frustrating labyrinth.
Definitely felt that way myself sometimes, even as a native speaker trying to explain it.
Right, but ultimately it's also one of the most rewarding and transformative things you can do.
That's the key takeaway, isn't it?
Yeah,
Despite the struggle.
exactly. So our mission today is to really unpack these linguistic complexities, delve into some of the psychological hurdles, and ultimately highlight the enduring value that mastering English brings to your life.
That's spot on. For, countless people across the globe, the journey to learning English can feel, well, overwhelmingly daunting.
Mm,
It's often filled with moments of intense frustration, maybe some self-doubt, and what can feel like this endless uphill battle.
totally.
Our sources today, I think they do an exceptional job of distilling the very essence of that experience. They give us not just a candid, really honest look at the difficulties,
Yeah, they don't shy away from the hard parts.
not at all, but they also offer this powerful and I think timely reminder of the immense tangible benefits that are waiting on the other side of all that effort.
Okay.
So we'll be aiming to give you a really crystal clear understanding of what makes English such a unique, maybe even formidable challenge.
Right.
And more importantly, why every single step, every stumble, and every small victory along that path is truly worth the effort.
It sounds like we're going beyond just grammar.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're about to embark on an exploration that touches not just on rules and vocabulary lists, but on fundamental cognitive shifts, subtle cultural nuances,
Wow.
and yeah, the sheer bravery it takes to embrace a new linguistic identity and really make it your own. It's a big deal.
The perplexing playground of English, why it trips us up.
Okay, so let's kick things off by acknowledging something I think is pretty universal.
Go for it.
If you've ever felt the urge to, I don't know, throw your English grammar book across the room,
Been there. Metaphorically, of course.
or maybe just quietly despair over a pronunciation guide, you are absolutely unequivocally not alone.
That's a relief to hear, I'm sure, for many listeners.
Right. Our sources consistently highlight that English is, well, quite frankly, a wonderfully, maddeningly weird language.
Weird is a good word for it. Quirky, maybe.
Quirky works too. Just take a moment to ponder this. We have words like read, R-E-A-D.
Okay.
It can be pronounced like read when you're talking about the present tense. Like, I read a new article every morning.
Simple enough. Sounds like read.
Perfectly straightforward, right? But then the very same word, spelled exactly the same, read, is pronounced like read when you're talking about the past tense. Yesterday, I read a fantastic novel.
Ah, yeah. The classic reread confusion.
How does anyone even begin to get their head around that kind of inherent unpredictability without feeling completely lost?
It's one of the first big hurdles, isn't it? That sound-spelling disconnect.
Exactly. And those inconsistencies, they really don't stop there.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Consider the often bewildering disconnect between how words are spelled and how they actually sound. Why is it that, though, T-H-O-U-G-H absolutely does not rhyme with through, T-H-R-O-U-G-H, even though they look so similar on paper?
It's baffling. You expect consistency, and English just says, nope.
It really does. Or extend that further. Think about words like bough, B-O-U-G-H, like a tree branch.
Right. Rhymes with cow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Versus rough, R-O-U-G-H,
Rhymes with stuff,
or plow, P-L-O-U-G-H.
which rhymes with now.
They all end in off,
Yeah.
yet each one has a completely different sound. It's like a linguistic maze where the signs keep changing.
Minefield, maybe.
That too.
Yeah.
Then we run into grammatical nuances that can feel, well, utterly redundant or just unnecessarily complex.
Like the going to go things.
Exactly. Why do we so often say things like, I am going to go to the store, when in many other languages, or even just simpler English, you can say, I go or I will go.
Yeah, that extra going to seems like baggage sometimes.
It just adds another layer of complexity, another cognitive hurdle that often leaves learners scratching their heads thinking, what's the point of this extra bit?
It truly seems like English revels in its delightful yet frustrating inconsistencies. Makes the path to fluency feel like a perpetually winding one.
It really does. A very scenic, but sometimes confusing route.
It's fascinating, though, how these very specific examples you've just highlighted, they really point to the deep-seated irregularities within English. Almost as if the language enjoys being an exception to its own rules.
That's a good way to put it.
Unlike many other languages, the more phonetic ones, where you can largely trust that a letter or a combo of letters corresponds to a predictable sound.
Right, like Spanish or Italian, maybe?
Exactly. English has this long, quite tumultuous, and incredibly rich history of just borrowing words from countless different linguistic sources.
Okay, break that down a bit.
Well, think about its origins. You've got Anglo-Saxon, that's Old English, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then, boom, 1066, the Norman invasion brings this massive infusion of vocabulary from Norman French. Lots of words related to law, government, fancy food.
Oh, okay. So that's one layer.
That's one huge layer.
Huh.
Then add significant contributions from Latin and Greek, especially for science, medicine, scholarship.
Right, academic terms.
Definitely. And don't forget Norse influences from Viking settlements, some Celtic bits left over.
Oh, it's a real mix.
It's a total linguistic melting pot. And crucially, it hasn't resulted in a perfectly streamlined system. Instead, what you get is this veritable patchwork of spelling and pronunciation rules.
Patchwork, I like that.
And often there are more exceptions than actual consistencies. This historical layering is precisely what makes it so cognitively challenging for learners.
Because you're naturally expecting patterns.
Exactly. Learners are often coming from languages where pronunciation is way more predictable, rules are more uniformly applied. Your brain, it craves order and predictability for efficiency.
And English just refuses.
Pretty much. It demands a remarkable degree of memorization, a really keen ear for nuance, and just tons of exposure to its myriad eccentricities rather than just learning a few core rules.
Okay, so that historical context makes a lot of sense. Now, here's where it gets particularly interesting, and often quite funny, looking back at least.
Uh-oh. Learner mishaps.
You got it. Our sources share some truly funny yet profoundly relatable problems English learners run into all the time. And these aren't just tiny slips. They genuinely highlight real communication pitfalls.
I can imagine.
Okay, picture this. You've diligently studied British English. You've mastered the vocabulary, the phrases, maybe even starting to nail a bit of an accent. You're feeling good.
Right, feeling confident.
Then you sit down to watch an American movie.
Culture shock via language.
Totally. Suddenly you feel utterly lost. The accents are different, the slang is unfamiliar, whole phrases just make zero sense.
Like fanny pack versus bum bag.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Or sidewalk versus pavement. Or you order chips expecting crisps and get French fries.
Yeah, that's a classic one.
It's enough to make you wonder if you're even speaking the same language, even after spending hundreds of hours learning it. It's a linguistic collision course.
It really highlights those dialect differences.
For sure. Then there's the classic confusion with near homophones. Words that sound almost the same.
Okay.
Our sources highlight the perfect example. Desert. D-E-S-E-R-T. The hot sandy place.
Right, Sahara.
Versus dessert. D-E-S-S-E-R-T. That delicious sweet treat like cake or ice cream after a meal.
Ah, yes. The double S. Crucial.
Missing just that one is in speech or writing. Completely changes everything, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it really does.
You could find yourself talking about, arid landscapes when all you really wanted was a slice of chocolate cake.
Leading to a very confused waiter and a very disappointed diner. Yep.
It's those tiny differences with big impacts.
Definitely.
And maybe the most common, and for many learners, the most cringe-inducing example.
Let me guess. Teching versus ed.
You knew it.
Yeah.
The classic adjective-verb confusion with those endings. You want to say you feel tired or uninterested?
Okay, I feel bored.
Right. But instead, you try to construct a sentence and maybe say, I am boring.
Ouch. Big difference.
Huge. You've accidentally, and probably hilariously, just announced that you yourself are a tedious, uninteresting person.
Not the impression you want to make at a party.
Not at all. You've implied your own tediousness rather than just expressing a state of mind like, I am bored. Suddenly, people are subtly backing away.
And you have no idea why.
Exactly. These small slips, while funny later, they really underscore how easily subtle linguistic differences, especially around states versus qualities, can create significant misunderstandings.
Or unintended social awkwardness.
Definitely. These aren't just errors. They're really critical learning experiences that force you to engage with deeper layers of meaning, context,
and implication beyond just the words themselves.
Spot on.
This really brings up a crucial question for learners, doesn't it? Why are these subtle differences, these near misses, so incredibly significant?
Yeah, why do they matter so much?
Well, as you've brilliantly illustrated, small errors can absolutely lead to big misunderstandings or unintended social fallout because language is ultimately about conveying precise intent.
Okay, intent is key.
Absolutely. The I am boring example perfectly shows how a single word choice, specifically that participle ending, completely alters perception. It changes whether you're describing a state you are experiencing, I am bored, or a quality you possess, I am boring.
Ah, affected by something versus being the cause of it.
Precisely. It's a fundamental difference. In any communication, clarity of intent is paramount. Imagine trying to explain you had a boring day at work and your listener thinks you're the boring one.
Message completely lost.
Exactly. The real message isn't just the words, but the precise context, the subtle emotional weight they carry, the exact intent behind them. These moments, while often funny in hindsight, are absolutely critical learning experiences because they force the learner to grapple with these deeper layers.
Beyond just vocabulary definitions.
Right. They highlight that true fluency isn't just knowing words, but understanding how they land, how they're perceived, and the subtle social weight they carry. It's this continuous, often intuitive process of refining your linguistic intuition.
Moving beyond just translating word for word.
Exactly, getting a feel for how the language truly functions in human interaction.
The underlying challenge is a deeper dive into the heart.
Okay, so building on that, let's dive deeper into why English is often seen as so inherently difficult. Our sources break it down into a few core reasons, and the first big one just jumps right out.
Let me guess. Exceptions.
Bingo! The sheer overwhelming number of exceptions to its own rules. We all learned that infamous saying, I before E, except after C.
Oh yeah, drilled into us in school.
It sounds so solid, so dependable, something you can finally cling to in the chaos of English spelling.
A life raft.
Totally. But then, almost immediately, it's followed by this huge list of exceptions that seem to exist just to break the rule itself. Think about weird.
W-E-I-R-D. Yep, breaks it.
There, T-H-E-I-R.
Breaks it.
Science, foreign, height, seas, leisure, caffeine, protein.
Okay, I get it. The list is endless.
It really is. It makes the rule almost less helpful than just learning each word individually. It's like a rule that delights in contradicting itself.
Leaves you constantly second-guessing, doesn't it?
Constantly. And this idea that English rules often break themselves is a theme that just pops up everywhere.
It really does.
You diligently learn a grammatical pattern, you practice it, you feel like, okay, I finally got this.
That feeling of mastery.
And then inevitably you encounter a word or a phrase that completely defies that pattern you just learned.
Like irregular verbs.
Exactly. You learn the past tense usually ends in egg. Walked, talked, played, feels consistent.
Nice and predictable.
But then, bam, you get go becoming went, eat becoming ate, becoming was or were, sing changing to sang or sung.
Zero consistent logic there. Pure memorization.
Pure memorization. Or think about plurals. You add I's usually. Cat, cats, dog, dogs. Simple.
Seems easy enough.
But then you have child becoming children, mouse to mice, man to men. And weirdly, fish just stays fish, or sometimes fishes.
Right. It's like for every rule, there's an equally common, maybe even more common, exception just waiting.
Forces you to abandon logic and just memorize or get tons of exposure.
Which can be incredibly frustrating and just takes so much time. Makes the learning process feel like trying to use a roadmap where half the signs point the wrong way.
That's a perfect analogy.
And what's truly fascinating here, connected back to what we said earlier, is that English, unlike some languages perhaps more carefully managed by academies, it just doesn't stick to a strict, uniform phonetic or grammatical blueprint. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's a language that evolved organically, almost haphazardly over centuries.
Absorbing bits and pieces from everywhere.
Exactly. Absorbing, adapting, sometimes awkwardly integrating elements from countless different linguistic traditions. We mentioned Anglo-Saxon, French, Latin, Greek. But let's not forget the big impact of Old Norse from Viking invasions. Think everyday words like sky, leg, take.
Wow, didn't realize those were Norse.
Yeah. Plus some Celtic influences, later words from colonial encounters, global trade. It all gets thrown in.
So it's this messy, cumulative history.
Precisely. And this rich, complex, somewhat chaotic historical accumulation means learners can't always rely on consistent patterns or a simple rule application. It's not a straight path.
It demands more flexibility, maybe?
Huge flexibility, plus a higher degree of memorization of irregularities and just tons of exposure to diverse usage, rather than just understanding a few foundational rules.
So that historical borrowing explains why we have words spelled alike but pronounced differently, like read and read.
Exactly. Or words that seem to defy phonetic logic, like night with its silent K or debt with its silent B. It's less about a deliberate design and more about this cumulative, sometimes messy, historical pileup, which, paradoxically, makes it both incredibly rich in expression.
And incredibly challenging to master consistently.
Got it. So, beyond these purely linguistic rules and their exceptions, there's another hurdle, one that's often overlooked. It's both physical and deeply cognitive.
Ah, the mechanics of speaking.
Exactly. Our sources point out that learning English isn't just about learning new words and grammar. It's about fundamentally retraining your very being.
How so?
Imagine, for a moment, your tongue, your lips, your jaw, your brain, your ears. Everything has been meticulously trained since birth in the patterns of your native language.
Right, years of ingrained habits.
They've developed specific muscle memories for making certain sounds, specific ways of processing sounds you hear, established neural pathways for thinking and forming sentences that feel totally natural to you.
Okay, makes sense.
Now suddenly you're trying to learn English, and it demands a complete overhaul of these ingrained systems.
A reboot, almost. Pretty much. It necessitates retraining your mouth muscles to produce sounds that might not even exist in your native tongue.
Like the sound.
That's a perfect example. The in this, or think. Common in English, completely absent in many languages. It requires a totally new tongue placement. Feels really awkward at first.
I can imagine. Or maybe R and L for some speakers.
Exactly. Or subtle vowel differences, like the short A in cat versus the in cut. It's like physical gymnastics for your mouth, throat, and tongue. Feels profoundly unnatural initially.
A real workout.
And it's not just about making the sounds, it's about thinking in new ways, instead of constantly translating from your native language word for word.
Which rarely works well.
Right, it often sounds clunky. You have to start structuring thoughts and concepts directly within the framework of English grammar and idiom.
Thinking in English, not just about English.
Precisely. That shift, from constant mental translation to direct conceptualization in English, marks a huge cognitive leap. It moves beyond just swapping words to a deeper, more fluid integration of the language into your core thought processes.
Yeah.
Feels like your brain is doing this intense, multisensory workout.
And this raises a really important point about the profound physical and mental effort involved, right? An effort that native speakers often just don't recognize because it's unconscious for them.
Completely taken for granted.
Learning a new language doesn't just add words. It literally rewires parts of your brain. Areas linked to auditory processing, memory, cognitive flexibility, they all change.
Wow. Literally rewires.
Yes. And when we talk about different languages using different muscles in the mouth and throat, that's not a metaphor.
It's actual physiology.
Absolutely. The precise movements of the tongue, lips, jaw needed for English phonemes, those distinct sounds, might be entirely different from what's needed in Japanese or Arabic or even other European languages. And beyond the physical mechanics, different languages structure thought differently. Some might focus more on verbs, others on nouns, some embed formality directly into verbs.
Whereas English uses separate words or tone.
Exactly. So it's not just swapping words, it's a fundamental shift in perceiving and producing sound, structuring concepts, even framing reality through this new linguistic lens.
That's deep.
It is. And that transition from laboriously translating every thought to actually thinking directly in English, that's often where learners feel a real breakthrough. It means they've internalized the language's logic, rhythm, even its cultural nuances. It's a massive cognitive achievement.
Okay, so we have rule exceptions, physical retraining, cognitive shifts. What else makes it hard?
Well, there's one more big one the sources highlight.
Which is?
Perhaps the biggest hurdle of all, and maybe surprisingly, it isn't linguistic at all. It's profoundly psychological.
The mental game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the relentless pressure to be perfect.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Many learners get caught in this paralyzing fear of speaking because they don't want to sound wrong.
I can relate to that feeling in other contexts.
Right. You meticulously construct a sentence in your head, you rehearse it silently, try to get every tense perfect, every article right, every pronunciation pristine.
The internal editor working overtime.
Constantly. And because that mental hurdle feels so huge, so overwhelming, you often hesitate second-guess yourself.
And maybe just don't speak at all.
Exactly. You might avoid speaking opportunities altogether, missing out on crucial practice. This self-imposed pressure for flawless execution can be a far greater block to fluency than any tricky grammar rule. It's like an invisible wall built by the fear of judgment.
That makes a lot of sense. It's self-sabotage, almost.
In a way, yes. But here's the crucial revelation, the thing our sources really want every learner to grasp, and it should be incredibly liberating.
Okay.
Native speakers mess up too.
Huh. Really? Tell me more.
Think about it for a second. How often do you hear a native English speaker confuse there, and there in writing, even professionals?
All the time online.
Or use less when technically it should be fewer.
Guilty as charged sometimes.
Or stumble over words, use a slang term slightly wrong, mispronounce an uncommon word, commit minor grammar errors in casual chat.
Happens constantly. You hear it every day if you really listen.
Exactly. The crucial difference is they don't stop speaking because of it. They might quickly correct themselves, or more often, the listener just gets the meaning and moves on, barely noticing.
Right. Communication still happens.
Precisely. This realization should be incredibly freeing for learners. It liberates you from the chains of perfectionism, empowers you to prioritize effective communication over flawless execution.
The goal isn't robot perfection.
Not at all. It's connecting with other humans.
That's a huge mindset shift.
It is. And what's truly fascinating here is the sheer psychological weight learners often carry. A burden that, as you said, can be far heavier than any grammar rule.
The fear is real.
Absolutely. This pervasive fear of making mistakes, the anxiety of sounding wrong, can be truly paralyzing. It hinders practice, slows progress significantly.
So how do we connect that to the bigger picture?
It connects because fluency isn't synonymous with flawless execution. It's fundamentally about effective communication.
Getting your message across.
Exactly. The primary goal of language is conveying meaning, connecting, expressing yourself, being understood. Native speakers, as we noted, frequently use informal grammar, slang, stumble, mispronounce.
Yeah.
Yet their message usually gets through. Communication achieved.
Okay.
This should be incredibly liberating. It shifts the focus from an impossible, often demoralizing standard of perfection to a much more attainable, practical goal, being understood.
Permission to be imperfect.
Absolutely. When you truly internalize that even native speakers are imperfect, it gives you profound permission to make mistakes, to experiment, to take linguistic risks, and crucially, to learn by doing, rather than waiting for some elusive state of perfection.
Which doesn't really exist anyway.
Exactly. Even for native speakers. It encourages what psychologists call a growth mindset, where every mistake isn't failure, but valuable data for learning, an opportunity to refine.
The transformative power, why the effort, is deeply rewarding.
Okay, so we've spent a good amount of time unpacking the challenges, the quirks, the psychological hurdles. It sounds tough.
It can be, definitely. No denying that.
But despite all of that, our sources make one thing abundantly clear. The journey of learning English is profoundly, undeniably worth every single ounce of effort.
That's the crucial counterpoint, isn't it? The why bother?
Exactly. And one of the most significant, most tangible benefits, it quite literally opens doors, an incredible array of opportunities that might otherwise be completely inaccessible.
Okay, like what kind of doors?
Well, let's start with jobs, career prospects. In our increasingly globalized economy, English often acts as the default common language, the lingua franca of international business, tech, science, even diplomacy.
It's everywhere.
Being proficient can dramatically enhance your career path. It lets you collaborate with international teams, access global markets, negotiate deals across borders.
Pursue opportunities abroad.
Absolutely. Opportunities that would be completely out of reach otherwise. It's often a prerequisite for moving up in multinational companies.
A real career booster. Okay. What else?
Beyond the professional world, think about education. English unlocks vast possibilities there.
Access to more resources.
An unparalleled treasure trove. Many of the world's leading universities, cutting-edge research papers, academic journals, a huge majority of online courses. They're conducted or published primarily in English.
So learning it means you can engage directly with that.
Yes. You can pursue higher education abroad in top institutions, read groundbreaking research as it happens, accesses a much broader spectrum of knowledge and diverse perspectives that might just not be available in your native language.
That's huge for learning and growth.
It is. And then there's travel.
Yeah.
It fundamentally transforms your experience.
How so? Makes it easier.
Infinitely easier and far more enriching. Navigating foreign countries when you can understand to be understood in English. It's a game changer.
Right. Ordering food, asking directions.
Confidently ordering food, getting precise directions, handling unexpected emergencies, or even just having casual chats with locals. English acts as this crucial, universal bridge in countless non-English speaking places where it's widely used as a second or third language.
Takes you from being a tourist to more of a traveler, maybe.
That's a great way to put it. From passive observer to active participant.
Okay. Jobs, education, travel. What else?
The internet. Think about it, this boundless ocean of information and connection.
So much is in English.
The sheer volume is staggering. Global news, entertainment, specialized forums, academic databases, vibrant online communities. Unlocking English means unlocking this vast, almost infinite amount of online content.
Enriches your understanding of pretty much anything.
Exactly.
Hey.
Connects you to diverse perspectives, lets you pursue any niche interest imaginable. And finally, maybe most importantly, English truly facilitates global communication on an unprecedented scale,
Connecting people.
breaking down geographical and cultural barriers. It allows you to build meaningful relationships, share your ideas, participate in critical conversations across cultures, forge bonds that language differences would otherwise make impossible.
So it's not just accessing info, it's participating.
Active, meaningful participation in a truly global dialogue. A constant exchange of ideas that can genuinely reshape your worldview.
Wow. That's quite a list of benefits.
It really is.
And what's truly fascinating here is the sheer breadth and depth of that influence English has globally. It extends far beyond what many might even realize.
More than just business and academia.
Oh, absolutely. It functions as a foundational lingua franca across so many critical domains: international diplomacy, aviation safety standards, popular culture like music and film, virtually all significant scientific research.
It really is woven into the fabric of the modern world.
Completely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, proficiency in English isn't just another skill for your resume. It is essentially a master key
A key to what?
to active participation in our truly globalized world. It offers a distinct, often indispensable competitive edge in employment. It opens pathways to roles demanding cross-cultural collaboration, international communication.
Roles that are often better paid, maybe?
Often, yes, and offer significant growth. For students, it's direct, unmediated access to cutting-edge research, prestigious programs, a global network of scholars that can shape their entire future.
And for travelers.
It moves beyond just practical navigation. It facilitates deeper, more authentic cultural exchanges, truly immersive experiences, not just transactions.
Okay.
And on a broader societal level, it democratizes access to information scientific breakthroughs, independent media, diverse cultural narratives. It genuinely enriches your worldview and critical thinking.
So it's an enabling skill.
Absolutely. A foundational competence that significantly expands your sphere of influence, opportunity, and personal enrichment in almost every part of modern life.
Okay, so the practical benefits are huge. What about the more personal side?
Ah, yes. That's equally important.
Beyond these massive practical opportunities, our sources really underscore that learning English fosters something far more personal and incredibly powerful.
Confidence.
Exactly. And an undeniable surge in confidence. Think about those moments, the pride you feel from learning even just one new sentence correctly.
Or using an idiom you just learned.
Right. That small victory, that tangible moment of successful communication, it creates this genuine spark of self-assurance.
Like, hey, I can do this.
Precisely. It's concrete evidence you're making real progress, your efforts are paying off, and you are capable of mastering something really challenging. It's powerful internal validation.
And that builds over time, presumably.
Exponentially. Imagine building on those small wins, word by word, phrase by phrase, until you can confidently hold a full, nuanced conversation.
Express complex ideas, maybe debate something.
Exactly. Imagine being able to share your deepest thoughts, your personal experiences, your unique perspective, truly telling your story to the world in a language that wasn't originally yours.
A language you worked so hard to acquire.
That profound ability to express yourself authentically, connect on a deeper level with diverse people, navigate complex discussions, advocate for yourself. It builds this almost unshakable sense of self-efficacy.
Confidence that goes beyond just language skills.
Totally. It empowers you in all areas of life because you realize your immense capacity for growth, perseverance, achievement. Each successful interaction, each understood message. It's not just about English. It's about proving to yourself again and again what you can truly accomplish.
And this raises that really important question about the psychological transformation that happens, doesn't it?
Definitely feels transformative.
The path to fluency is incremental, like we said, a series of small, often unseen victories accumulating.
Little by little.
Each new word absorbed, each tricky phrase understood, and especially each successful interaction with another person in English. It provides this tangible, immediate sense of achievement.
Feels good.
It does. And these aren't just isolated moments, they're powerful building blocks for self-belief. This cumulative success builds self-efficacy, your belief in your own ability to succeed at tasks.
So it's not just about language, it's about belief in yourself generally.
Exactly. It reinforces your overall ability to overcome challenges and reach goals. It's this powerful feedback loop. You try, you succeed, even just a little.
You gain confidence.
Which intrinsically motivates you to try more, push further. This process deeply empowers individuals to express themselves more fully, share their unique perspectives without fear, assert their presence in global conversations.
So voicing your thoughts in a new language is empowering in itself.
It's a courageous act of self-actualization. It shows remarkable resilience, adaptability, capacity for growth that goes way beyond just communication skills.
So that's a really powerful internal benefit. What else is reassuring for learners?
Well, there's something huge, perhaps the most comforting aspect of this entire journey, something our sources really emphasize.
What's that?
You are absolutely not alone.
Uh,
Community on a massive scale. This isn't some solitary struggle only a few brave souls undertake in isolation. The sheer scale is astonishing, really mind-boggling. Get this statistic. There are 2 billion English learners around the world.
2 billion, wow. Let that sink in.
Right. 2 billion people are on this very journey with you right now, sharing similar triumphs and tribulations.
That's incredible. So you're not just learning a language.
You're becoming part of a giant global family. Think about the collective experience you share.
Like universal moments of confusion over idioms.
Exactly. Or the shared triumph of finally understanding a difficult accent, or successfully ordering food without a hitch in a foreign country.
It fosters this incredible sense of camaraderie.
A shared bond with countless others, and this vast community means there are literally limitless resources available to you.
Online forums, language partners.
Shared tips, dedicated exchange partners, local meetup groups in almost every city, all designed to support each other through this huge endeavor.
That's really powerful.
It's a potent reminder that while the path can feel deeply personal and sometimes isolating, the struggle, the perseverance, and the ultimate rewards are universally understood and celebrated within this immense, interconnected network. You're never truly alone when 2 billion people are walking the same path, cheering each other on.
That's a fantastic perspective.
But what's truly fascinating here is the sheer unprecedented scale of the shared effort. It highlights the profound power of collective human experience.
And next to a basic human need.
I think so. A need for connection, belonging, mutual support. This huge global community of English learners means there are, like you said, countless resources, support networks, and literally an army of fellow travelers who get the specific struggles.
Whether it's mastering the sound
or understanding phrasal verbs, they understand the struggles and can genuinely celebrate the unique triumphs of learning English.
That shared journey must be validating.
Incredibly validating and motivating. Imagine the solidarity knowing that a tricky grammar point, a confusing idiom, a frustrating pronunciation issue isn't unique to you and your perceived failings.
But it's a common hurdle for millions.
A universal rite of passage. This shared understanding transforms a daunting task into a shared adventure. It's not just learning a language, it's joining a global dialogue, becoming part of a worldwide community.
Tapping into a universal understanding.
Exactly, and fostering empathy and cross-cultural appreciation along the way.
Navigating the journey, practical strategies and mindset shifts.
Okay, so given all this, the challenges, the immense rewards, the global community, what does this really mean for you, the learner, as you keep navigating this wonderfully perplexing yet profoundly rewarding language?
Right, the practical takeaway. How do you keep going?
Exactly. Our sources offer some truly fantastic practical advice on how to maintain motivation, especially when it feels tough, and crucially, how to make genuine, sustained progress.
Okay, sounds useful.
First up, and this is a big one, rethinking your ultimate goal.
Shifting perspective.
Yeah. Instead of aiming for that elusive, almost unattainable perfection, the advice from our sources is crystal clear and honestly quite liberating.
Which is?
Don't aim to be perfect, aim to be understood.
Ah, Communication over perfection.
It's a monumental distinction. It can fundamentally change your entire learning experience.
How so?
Well, when you're constantly striving for absolute perfection, every little mistake, every hesitation, every slightly off pronunciation feels like failure.
Leads to frustration, self-criticism.
Discouragement. It's a really demotivating cycle. But when your main goal shifts to simply being understood, getting your message across effectively, even if your grammar isn't perfect or your accent isn't native,
The pressure lifts.
immediately, the immense pressure lessens. You realize clear, functional communication is the real priority. This mindset empowers you to take more risks, speak up more often, engage in conversations without that paralyzing fear of judgment.
Because the goal is connection, not flawlessness.
Exactly. Knowing the core objective is just conveying your message effectively and connecting with another person. It transforms language learning from this daunting academic task into a much more liberating, dynamic, and ultimately enjoyable communicative process. Focus on the message, not just the mechanics.
And what's so fascinating there is the sheer liberation in shifting focus from that absolute linguistic perfection to the more attainable, more human goal of effective communication.
It feels more achievable.
It really does. It raises that important question. Why is understood truly enough?
Yeah. Why is that sufficient?
It's enough because language, at its most fundamental level, is primarily a tool for connection, for meaning-making, mutual understanding. When learners bravely choose to prioritize intelligibility over flawless, native-like execution, it immediately significantly reduces the psychological pressure they often put on themselves.
And that has knock-on effects.
Huge ripple effects. It encourages more frequent practice, fosters greater risk-taking in conversation, and ultimately makes the whole learning process far more enjoyable, sustainable, less anxiety-ridden.
Like embracing interlanguage.
Exactly. That concept linguists use a learner's developing system. It's not perfect, but it's valid, functional, evolving. Embracing that allows for a more organic, less agonizing path to fluency. Every understandable utterance, every successful exchange gets celebrated as success, not just the perfect ones. It validates the journey itself.
Okay, so shift the goal. What's next?
Make it fun.
The enjoyment factor. Our sources really emphasize incorporating enjoyment directly into your learning. Turn it from a chore into an engaging pastime.
Ditch the boring textbook sometimes.
Exactly. Don't just stick to formal exercises. Their advice is powerful. Learn with fun, podcasts, songs, movies, games.
Makes sense. How does that work in practice?
Well, think how much more engaging it is to sing along enthusiastically to your favorite English songs.
You're not just memorizing lyrics.
Right. You're actively picking up rhythm, intonation, common phrases, even cultural context, all naturally, immersively, enjoyably.
Okay, songs are good. What else?
Watching movies or TV shows. With English subtitles, maybe without if you're brave. It exposes you to real-life conversational English, current slang, cultural nuances no textbook can fully capture.
Authentic language use.
Definitely. Podcasts, like this one hopefully, let you absorb spoken English in tons of different contexts. Storytelling, news, interviews, casual chat.
Tuning your ear to different accents and speeds.
Precisely. And games, especially ones requiring communication or with rich English narratives. It makes learning feel less like studying and more like play.
Integrating it into hobbies.
That's the key. Integrate English seamlessly into your existing interests. Make it an organic, joyful part of daily life, not a separate, arduous task. When learning is fun, you're more consistent, more motivated, more successful. You learn without even realizing it sometimes.
And if we connect that to the bigger picture of effective learning,
Yeah.
it really taps into intrinsic motivation.
The best kind of motivation.
Absolutely. Widely recognized as the most powerful driver for sustained learning. Learning through enjoyable activities often leads to what we call incidental learning.
Picking things up without trying.
Pretty much. Picking up vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation naturally, almost without conscious effort, because you're not focused on studying.
You're focused on the movie plot or the game.
Exactly. Your brain is engaged differently, more holistically, making connections more readily, retaining info better than through rote memorization. And crucially, it exposes you to authentic, unscripted language in its natural context.
Which textbooks often lack.
Right. Textbooks often present language in isolation. Real life gives words meaning through situation, intent, body language, dialogue. Engaging with English through fun, authentic media lets you understand how language is truly used, not just structured. It's learning by doing, experiencing, living. Incredibly effective.
Okay, so aim for understanding, make it fun. What else?
This next one is really interesting, maybe even counterintuitive for some.
Go on.
The strong advice to practice speaking out loud, even to yourself.
Speaking to yourself.
Yep. And also to use what you already know without waiting until you feel you know it all.
Okay, unpack that. Why speak out loud, even alone?
Well, many learners fall into that trap we mentioned, accumulating knowledge, reading, listening, but hesitating to actually produce the language.
Waiting to feel ready or perfect.
Exactly. But language is a skill, like playing an instrument or riding a bike. You only get better by doing it. Active practice.
So how does talking to yourself help?
The advice is simple but effective. Practice speaking out loud, even to yourself. It sounds quirky, maybe silly, but it's incredibly powerful. Narrate your day while walking or doing chores. Describe objects around you in English. Practice a hypothetical conversation out loud.
Where does that achieve?
It builds crucial muscle memory in your mouth and throat. Improves fluency by reducing hesitation. Solidifies new vocabulary and grammar because you're actively retrieving and producing them.
Low-stakes practice.
Exactly. A judgment-free zone to experiment with sounds and sentences, and critically, use what you know. Don't wait to know it all.
Don't let limits hold you back.
Precisely. Don't let limited vocabulary or imperfect grammar stop you from speaking. Even with just a few words, you can communicate. The very act of using the language, however imperfectly, highlights your gaps and provides potent motivation to learn more. Far more effective than just passive absorption. It's that constant active engagement, that real-world output that drives real progress.
Active production from day one.
That's the core idea, and it's fascinating because it directly challenges that common learner instinct to delay speaking. But like we said, language is a skill, a performance art almost. You can't learn piano just by reading sheet music. You have to play. You learn to speak by speaking.
So speaking aloud, even solo,
Builds muscle memory, forces your brain to retrieve words and construct sentences in real time, improving processing speed and fluency. It solidifies knowledge because producing language clarifies understanding that output hypothesis idea.
using what you know builds confidence too.
Massively. Each successful utterance, even simple ones, reinforces positive learning and provides invaluable feedback. This cycle use, make mistakes, refine, reuse, is far more effective than endless passive input alone. It turns abstract knowledge into practical ability.
Okay, one last piece of advice.
Yes, a simple but profoundly powerful one for sustaining the journey and preventing burnout.
Lay it on me.
Celebrate small wins. Every word learned is a victory.
Acknowledge the progress.
Exactly. In the grand marathon of language learning, it's so easy to get overwhelmed by how much there still is to know. You look at fluent speakers, native speakers, and feel disheartened by the huge distance.
Focusing on the giant end goal can be paralyzing.
Totally demotivating. Instead, our sources passionately advocate breaking down that huge challenge into manageable steps and actively acknowledging, even celebrating, every single step forward.
Like what kind of steps?
Did you learn a new idiom today and use it correctly? Victory. Successfully order coffee without hesitation, despite a tricky accent. Victory. Understand a complex sentence in a movie or podcast you wouldn't have grasped last month. Victory.
Every bit counts.
Each new word added, each grammar rule grasped, each conversation navigated with more ease. These aren't just small steps. They're concrete, undeniable achievements showing real, measurable progress.
So actively recognizing them provides fuel.
The necessary psychological fuel. Little bursts of motivation to keep going during tough times. It reframes the journey not as an insurmountable peak, but a continuous series of achievable, rewarding steps. Build positive momentum, celebrate the process, see how far you've truly come.
That makes so much sense for long-term motivation.
And what's truly fascinating here is the immense psychological power of that positive reinforcement. Learning a language is a marathon, not a sprint. Demands sustained motivation, especially through plateaus or frustrating periods.
When progress feels slow.
Exactly. Acknowledging and actively celebrating small achievements, understanding a phrase, ordering a meal, a short chat, forming a sentence, easily provides those necessary dopamine hits, those psychological rewards.
Reinforces the positive behavior.
Makes the journey itself feel inherently rewarding. It critically shifts perception. Instead of focusing on the daunting gap to fluency, you're reminded of how far you've already come, the concrete progress made.
Reframes it as achievable milestones.
Yes, rather than an insurmountable peak. It fosters resilience, builds a robust sense of accomplishment, and ultimately makes learning a profoundly positive, enduring part of your life. Creates that virtuous cycle of effort and reward, keeping you moving forward, word by word, conversation by conversation. Outro.
So there you have it. Our deep dive into the English learning journey really reveals this path filled with, well, linguistic quirks, charming inconsistencies, and some very real psychological hurdles.
It can certainly feel overwhelming, maybe even solitary sometimes.
Definitely. But it's also undeniably a journey that leads to profound personal growth, unparalleled global connection, and an expansion of your own capabilities you might not have even imagined possible.
That transformation is key.
Yeah. So if you're currently learning English, or maybe thinking about embarking on this adventure, know this.
Yeah,
You are already incredibly brave.
absolutely.
You're undertaking an endeavor that transforms not just your vocabulary and communication skills, but fundamentally reconfigures how you interact with the world, how you access information, and how you connect with billions of people. Keep pushing forward.
And this raises one final important question for you, our listener.
Okay.
If learning English is fundamentally about acquiring a new way to think, a new way to speak, and a new way to connect, consider deeply how this powerful skill might not only change what you say,
But how you see things.
exactly, how it might fundamentally alter how you perceive the world, and indeed your very place within it.
That's a big thought.
It is. It's far more than just a language. It's a profound journey into new perspectives, a gateway to new cultures, and a deeper, richer understanding of human communication itself.
Challenges your assumptions.
Challenges your existing cognitive frameworks, broadens your empathy by exposing you to different ways of thinking, equips you to engage with our complex, globalized world in a more meaningful, more impactful way than ever before.
Wow.
So keep going, keep speaking, keep making those wonderful, necessary mistakes, and never, ever forget the incredible power and transformation you're unlocking within yourself with every single word you learn and every conversation you share.